Hello. Today we have I got to tell you, I think I'm most excited about this, but we have an incredible opportunity to talk to Sade. Hello, Sade.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I gotta tell you, I've been working in mental health for years and I've practiced as a therapist, and borderline personality disorder is the one thing that we do not see people get better with. We just
Mhm,
don't.
mhm.
Medication doesn't work, therapies don't work. They're just that thorn in your side client or patient that you just try and make things as soft and nice for them as possible because it's going to be a life of misery and there is no hope.
Yeah,
And
that's
that was my experience with borderline personality disorder, but you have a different story.
yeah. It's when I was dealing with therapists myself, they would try to get me to come to therapy. It would work out for a few days, maybe a few weeks, and then I'd stop going. So I get why it's so difficult for therapists because they'll try to give you something. They'll give me the medication, or they'll give me a day and a week, a day in the week to go and have therapy, but and then I won't turn up because I'm elsewhere doing something reckless, and then I'll come back in a month later. I'm like, well, I need that therapy again. And it's not just so easy to just put somebody in therapy. It's a process that takes weeks and weeks. So as being diagnosed with borderline, we're constantly fucking things up for ourselves. We're constantly messing things up for ourselves. And, as soon as there's a solution there, we mess it up. Because a lot of the time I saw a meme on Instagram. It said it's like having borderline personality disorder is like having bipolar express. So it's like bipolar, but really quick bipolar. So it's like, bipolar, you can go a few weeks or a few months being manic, and then you can go a few weeks or months being depressed. With BPD, we could wake up really, really manic. And then by 30 minutes later, it's like, well, I want to go and cry and die now, and I'm just going to go and kill myself. So it's all day, up and down all day, little triggers. Something on the TV can trigger you. Your husband can trigger you. Your kid can trigger you. And I was just constantly being triggered. My emotions were constantly up and down. I couldn't control any of it. And when I'm sitting back and reflecting on my decisions and reflecting on my attitude, I'm like, well, there was no need for that. And it's just very hard to be aware of what you're doing and not be able to stop it. So yeah, dealing with therapists was never helped. Doing therapy never helped. We had group therapy session one time. I broke down in the middle of the group therapy session. It was just insane. And I get why there is a lot of stigma on BPD. I'm just hearing about the court case with Johnny Depp and his ex-wife. She's just been diagnosed with borderline, and that is going to bring a whole nother kind of stigma to how the illness itself. But yeah, it's really hard to deal with, and to know that food was the culprit is just insane, because all of the medication, all of the therapy, I could have been saved 10 years ago with just eating meat. No sugar, no carbs, no vegetables, no fruits, just meat. And I could have lived a productive life. I could be a lot further than I am now, but I guess everything in its time. So, yeah.
And it was all meant to be. It was all meant to be. And I looked back on my mental illness and I was, mad at first that screw you, society. Like, you've been judging me because I couldn't be living your little Pinterest lives. And you had a full tank. I didn't, I didn't even realize how good felt until I felt it. And I think that was the hardest part of watching, because I was suffering with my bipolar disorder, but I was watching my clients with borderline personality disorder suffer immensely more because they are their own worst enemy. And it is just this hell, this like purgatory of just constantly torturing and constantly feeling like everybody hates me. Everybody is out to get me. The world hates me. But what I think is so cool about your story is that you did, you just jumped. You just jumped. You were just like, okay, I'm going to try this. And you didn't have any promise that this was going to be just like all the other things. This was going to be just like the medication, just like the yoga, just like the therapy, just like everything else. But you gambled and you won.
Yeah, I had nothing to lose. My marriage was, we were a couple of days away from, well, I was a couple of days away from saying, you know what, okay, I'm done, because I couldn't handle being around him anymore, because he is my biggest trigger, my husband. So I was going constantly from hating him every day or every hour to loving him, to hating him and loving him again. And him being my trigger, when I'm on my own, I don't get as triggered. I can just live my manic life. I can go and do what I want. I don't really have any responsibilities. I don't have a child to take care of. But with him and the responsibilities in my life, they were triggering me to a point where I just couldn't handle it anymore. And I said, you know what? I might have to sacrifice time with my child. And because my husband is from New York and I'm from London. So my plan was, you know, we split up. I go back to London. He goes back to New York. And then what happens to the child? That is just a little peek into my thinking when I'm going through a borderline episode. And now I'm out of it. I'm not in that anymore. If I would have made that decision then and I didn't start Carnivore, we would be separated. We would be divorced. The child would be suffering, all because of a decision that I made when I was in the middle of an episode. So that's just one example of how messed up borderline had me. And with going Carnivore, it was like, okay, this is my last try. And me and my husband had a conversation, because he had agreed. He was like, okay, I don't think I deserve this anymore. I think that I need to find somebody for me that can, you know, provide for me what it is that I need in my life. And it's obviously, if you're not able to do that, then we have to separate go separate ways. And I said to him, before I sort of started seeing the effects of Carnivore, I was like, okay, before we do this, before we split up, before we, you know, put a child in the middle of this distraction, maybe I should try ayahuasca. Because it was between the Carnivore and the ayahuasca. I was like, okay, LSD didn't work, the mushrooms didn't work, all of that, the psychedelics. I was like, maybe ayahuasca is the answer. Maybe going and having a shamanic journey with the mother plant, with the ayahuasca would help. And then a couple of days after that, 3 or 4 days after that, because I had just started Carnivore when I was talking about the ayahuasca, and 3 days in, it was like, I was watching Netflix and I was sitting down on the chair, on the sofa, and I looked around me and everything just felt really different. Everything felt quiet. There was no chatter going on up here. I didn't feel any hatred in my heart. I wasn't bitter. I had no emotions pulling me left, right, and center. It just felt very clear. And I looked around for a minute. I was like, is this nirvana? Is this what they talk about? The you know, the spiritual gurus, when you get to that place of peace and Zen. I was like, wait, I'm here. Because I'm such a spiritual person. I thought something was spiritual was happening to me. I was like, oh, maybe this is the rapture. Maybe I'm like ascending or something.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
It was just that my mind was so clear. And it was in that moment when I was sitting watching Netflix that I realized I wasn't overthinking. I wasn't having any catastrophizing thoughts. I wasn't thinking about what it is that I'm supposed to be doing and what it is that I'm not doing. There was no anxiety. There was no depression. It was just like I was clear. And that was 3 days into Carnivore. 3 days of eating. At that point, I was just eating eggs and bacon. And I was eating a lot of ground beef with shrimp, sorry. And yeah, 3 days in, I'm looking around thinking I've reached nirvana. And then I was like, okay, this might just be a really manic disassociation. So let me wait until tomorrow. And then the next day came and I woke up feeling happy. I woke up feeling clear-minded. I looked at my husband and I was like, wow, I actually love him. I don't feel any animosity. It's like all of the judgments and all of the criticisms and all of the bitterness and the anger and everything that was a part of me was just gone. And the only way I could explain it was like there was a demon attached to me, and then the demon just left. It's like I got delivered and the demon left, and now I was free to just be this person that I am. And then a week in, my anxiety totally went, realizing that I'm this person that just loves people, loves to talk, loves to socialize, loves to do all of these things that I've hidden myself from for so many years. And it was just such an amazing feeling. And every single day I'm waking up and I'm continuously monitoring myself, like, okay, maybe today's the day that I've been saying maybe the borderline just turned into bipolar. Maybe I've got a couple of months of feeling good and then I'm gonna, just go to shit. But nothing. So after the first 3 days, I saw the benefits. And after a week, I saw the anxiety go. And in 2 weeks, I'm just seeing the borderline symptoms disappear. No more splitting, no more arguing with my partner, no more seeing him as the enemy, as the person keeping me trapped in this prison. None of it. It's just all gone.
And now your cravings are gone.
All cravings are gone as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And you said that took about 60 days. Well, you noticed at 60 days.
The cravings stopped at around 4 weeks. The cravings stopped, but the desire didn't. The desire didn't stop. I still would, look at a cake or a donut and think, oh, I could really eat that. Even though the craving wasn't strong for it, I knew I wasn't going to eat for it. But after it was around yesterday, 2 days ago, that I realized I now don't even have the desire for it. So the craving went in 4 weeks in, and now I'm about 8 weeks in. I don't even have the desire for it anymore. And I think about it and it makes me feel a bit nauseous. It doesn't make me like, I look at sugar like drugs now. Whenever I see people pushing, sugar out here, we've got sweets where they push them along on the beach. I see them as drug dealers now. It's like everybody that's selling anything that's not meat is a drug dealer to me. So yeah, I just see sugar as drugs now. I don't see it as anything else. But like cocaine, food had the same effect on me than cocaine did. You take it and then you have the come down. And I eat, have to come down, and I was continuously being thrown around this roller coaster of emotions because of the sugar. But all of this time I was just taking cocaine all this time. So it's amazing to watch this progress. But yeah, no cravings and no desire.
Well, and I think that that's really key that you talk about your perception, because it is like an alternate reality. Whenever you're mentally ill, you see things through a different lens, and it's nothing changed in your situation. You still have the same responsibilities. You still have the same husband. You still have the same child, but you are experiencing joy. And that's another reason why I titled my business Inner Clarity System, because it's about that inner clarity, about seeing things differently from within. And we can sit here and go to all these gurus about, even therapy, of all these different modalities and different ways of meditation and breathing and everything. But if you are in an alternate reality, it doesn't work. You can't center yourself. You can't quiet your mind whenever there's absolute pure chaos and you're seeing everything through a different lens.
No, it's not possible. I always thought the issue was spiritual too. I was convinced that it was a spiritual issue. I tried everything. Before I got married, I was going to spend around £3,000 on going on a shamanic journey to the four corners of the earth to try and heal myself, to do, the ayahuasca plant, and to purge myself of all of the things that are going on inside of me that are, driving me crazy and making me crazy. I was convinced it was spiritual. And all along to find out it was just a neurological issue. I'm so mad. I'm so fucking mad.
Yeah.
All neurology. I've gone on this spiritual path, a whole decade of spirituality, to find that it was a scientific thing. It was a biology thing. It's I don't want to swear on the podcast, but it's
okay. No, I hear you. I hear you. And what drives me nuts now is that there's still so many people who are needlessly suffering, and they are drinking soda by the gallon, and they are eating chips by the bag, and they are eating cookies by the batch, and they're eating ice cream by the carton, and they are just continuing their mental illness. And I want to just run to them and go, well, there's another way. There's another way. But it's very difficult for them whenever they are in the middle of their mental illness to see, because they just think that I'm just another thing. They just think I'm another person just saying another thing. But that's why I need your story. That's why, we as a carnivore community need stories like this to know that the worst of the worst can get better.
Yeah.
Because I love you already. And I hate to say something like that to you, but that borderline personality disorder is the worst of the worst. And so, and the most hopeless. So
Yeah.
if you can resolve this by eating animal meat and animal fat, then it has got to give hope to other people. It has
Yeah.
got to.
Yeah.
Go
It's
ahead.
hard because when you're showing something like this happening to someone, the rebuttal that you're always going to get is, well, it worked for her, it might not work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And people will do things in the meantime, like you mentioned, the eating the cookies and eating the sugar and the sweets and stuff, because it's a temporary feel good. They want to feel good temporarily, and you can't tell somebody that feels like crap all the time that they should stop doing the one thing to make them feel good. It's like, well, no, F you. I don't know. You're going to take the little bit of happiness that I have away from me, the little bit of peace of mind that I get. But what I want to be able to get across to people is to, the cocaine analogy and the sugar analogy. If you was doing cocaine every day, you would be feeling exactly the same as you feel now. And if you just take the drugs away, then you go through the withdrawal stage. Of course, you feel weak, you feel tired, you feel groggy, you get worse before you get better, but it's worth it. Because even with a husband, even with a child, even I live right on front of the ocean. My house is overlooking the ocean. I have so much to be grateful for. I've been in Mexico for almost 3 years, and I've only been here for 7 or 8 weeks. I've lived here for almost 3 years, but I've only been here for 8 weeks. I did not see what I had. I looked at my husband, I looked at my child, I looked at my house, and I didn't appreciate any of it. And I've only appreciated it in the last 8 weeks, and they have stuck. Well, my husband has stuck by me throughout this whole thing. But to know that other people have got lives that they could be appreciating, and family that they could be loving and appreciating, and experiences that they could be trying, and opportunities that they could be taking hold of, and they're not, because the drugs, it's all drugs. Everything that's not meat or meat based or animal protein based is drugs. And I know it sounds so left, it sounds so ridiculous and crazy, but it's something that everybody can try, because there is nothing to lose. There is nothing to lose from just giving it a try. You're not going to die from high cholesterol or having a heart attack in 30 days. It's not going to happen. It's impossible. So, it's really hard to get people to stop the short-term pleasure for the long-term effects and benefits.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I do. I just encourage people just to try it, like, prove me wrong. And I have so many people who, once they do, and I tell them, I said, just do it for 30 days, just do it for 45 days. And they're like, okay, but then I can go back. And I'm like, then we'll reassess and whatever. They get to the 30 days and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know how good feels. I never want to go back. And I'm like, yay. I'm like, I won. Like, I get them to just try it, because there's almost like this rebellious teenager inside of them, those cravings. They're like, no, give me my tacos, give me my ice cream, give me my this, give me my that, give me my ramen noodles, And so if you just tell that inner being, that rebellious teenager, okay, listen, you can have it in 45 days. Let's just do this experiment. Let's just try. Let's just prove Emily wrong. Let's just do this. But I want to tell you, I haven't told anybody this. Well, I told my family, but I haven't talked about it publicly. So I have had no bipolar symptoms since April of 2019. So that's 3 years. And I had an incident, and it scared the crap out of me. 2 weeks ago, I've been trying to get my son to eat more meat. And so I came to this compromise with him, because, I'm not going to like just torture him and make him only eat meat, just because I have a problem with it. And so I gave him this compromise, and I said, okay, you can have potatoes with your meat. And he was like, bet. He was like, okay, cool. So we went and we did this experiment where we tried 3 different ways to fry or bake French fries in beef tallow, because I was like, okay, I'm obviously not going to use seed oils for my kid, that's a no-brainer. But so we did 3 different ways to bake it or to pan fry it or to deep fry it in beef tallow. And so we were talking about the science of it and the crispiness of it. And so we did a taste test, and I should have just had my 14-year-old do the taste test, but I did the taste test with him because I was trying to prove to him that this, the deep fried was the best way to get it. Actually, no, I was trying to prove that it was baked was the way to go. And he was trying to prove that deep fried was. So, I got a little arrogant and I was just like, I've been doing this for 3 years. I can, have a handful. I had literally probably 10 French fries.
Yeah.
And the next day I had depression. And it wasn't just like kind of like my boat was rocking a little bit. It was like 3 years ago depression.
Sure.
And it floored me. And I was just like, I called my family and I was just like, I'm depressed. Like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I had potatoes yesterday and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I went to bed and I slept probably an extra like 2 hours that day. And then I was just like, okay, I have to go to work. I have to do my regular schedule and this will leave my system. And it did. Within 24 hours, I was fine. And of course, I went back to eating my animal meat and my animal fat and it went, okay, I can't do experiments.
Wow.
But it's just crazy that even
potato fries did that to you. That's how sensitive you are.
and that I've been on this path for this long, for 3 years. You would think that I could have a handful of fries.
Yeah, because they speak about the insulin sensitivity becoming better or something. But if you're sensitive and you suffer mental health issues, it's just not a gamble that can be made. It's not a gamble to be played with. I've always I haven't gone out of the diet, but it's only been 8 weeks. But I never will. I don't need to learn through experience anymore. I did that my whole life. I don't need to know if I'm sensitive to other things. As long as I'm not going to die on a meat-based diet, I don't need to have anything outside of it. My marriage depends on it. Being a mother to my son depends on it. My whole life depends on me not ingesting anything that's going to mess with my sugar levels or is going to, change the neurology of my, my hormones in any way. I just can't do it. It's not worth it. Like when I go out with my partner and people are offering me stuff, it feels rude to say no, thank you. And then having to explain myself, well, like, I'm a carnivore now, I can't do this, I feel crazy. But it's like, I'd rather look crazy, feel crazy and be crazy than to eat this little piece of cake for you, somebody that, I don't really, it's not worth it. Why am I going to be depressed for 3 days for somebody that I don't even really, so no, I'm not going to do it. It's just, when you find what works, there's no need to try and fix it. You don't fix what's not broken. So it's actually amazing to hear that, because all I've been hearing is you go a certain amount of time and then you introduce something and your insulin sensitivity is better. But for someone like yourself that deals with mental health issues, to hear that, it's kind of it helps somebody like me to know that, yeah, I should stay away from that. And I can only imagine how many other people you're going to help with bipolar disorder because of your experiences. And it's orgasmic. It's the ability that we have to change people's lives now. It just gives me so much hope. Every time I see a comment, someone saying you've made me decide to go carnivore, it makes my heart sing. I dance around the house and I'm like, yay, another person has come to the other side. It's just, yeah, it's amazing, man.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you have such a powerful, powerful platform. I mean, you have such a powerful story in itself, but your ability, whenever I first heard you describe borderline personality disorder and your experience, I was like, what? Like, she described it perfectly. Your eloquence and your ability to communicate what that misery is really like is so powerful. And I'm so glad. I had a client who sent me your video and said, you need to hear this and you need to talk to her. A client. Yeah. And I was just like, and I mean, people send me stuff and I'm like, okay. Yeah. And it just happened to be, and I know it was just meant to be, happened to be that I had a free moment right then. And as soon as I got the message, I was like, okay, I'll click on it. And I was like, yeah, Sean Baker, whatever, like, I was like, okay, another story. And I was just like, I was like, I have to talk to her. I have to talk to her because it is so important for people who are in the pit of mental illness hell to know that there is hope.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine living with this for the rest of my life. And to know that there's people out there, men and women, although women and BPD is usually, I don't really see a woman diagnosed with it, but there are some. To know that people are going to have to deal with this for the rest of their lives and there's not really any hope. They just have to learn how to manage it. Therapy can only do so much. Medication only works for a certain amount of time because the body gets used to it. And just like with drugs, you have to take more and more and more for it to have any kind of beneficial effect. On top of that, you're no longer a person because the drugs just make you this zombified kind of human being. It's like to know that majority of people with BPD can be healed through a diet. At this point, I'm spamming BPD pages on Instagram, girls that have taken the BPD identity and they're like, yes, this is me, I have BPD. I'm like, nope, leaving them a paragraph, hey, you can fix this, come over to my page. And sometimes I think, is this a bit narcissistic of me? Is this the grandiose manic phase that I'm going through? And it's not. It's just I cannot sit back and watch other people suffer when I have found the answer. And I feel like a preacher, like I'm given the gospel of carnivore and I'm an evangelist and I'm just out there handing out leaflets like, hey, please can you join carnivore? Just give it some time. You don't have to commit forever, just give it some time. It's just hard to watch people suffer both physically and mentally and not say anything. And I've become the really annoying person in people's lives where they say, oh, I'm dealing with this, I've got this. I'm like, well, maybe you should go carnivore. Everything is fixed with carnivore. I think anything that we fix with carnivore, I'm convinced.
Yeah. And let me encourage you to know that this is going to take its course and that you just need to be present at every moment of this journey, because this is going to be a ride. And you are going to be used to bring life and healing and hope to people. And you're going to learn the boundaries that you need to have. And that's really hard whenever we come from mental illness, because we don't come with boundaries with mental illness at all. We come with risky behavior. We come with pushing on the accelerator and hitting on the brakes. Those are the only two things we know, is all in or nothing at all. And so I'm excited to watch your journey. I'm excited to watch you, really learn how to do that, because I was there. I was, as soon as this all happened to me and people found out about my story, they were messaging me from all over the world. And I would stay up until like 2-3 o'clock in the morning answering their questions, because they were laying in bed and they couldn't even get up enough to go to the doctor. They couldn't even get up out of their bed to do anything, but they could message me and I was giving them hope. And then I realized, okay, yes, I can help people. But that's why I started my YouTube channel. And I'm so glad that you started your YouTube channel and you started your Instagram, because that will give you a filter. That will give you an opportunity for you to just go, okay, here's my boundary. Here's my boundary. I can't stay up, till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I need to sleep. I will help you tomorrow. I will help you later. Or here's a video. I've already answered this question. I can't tell you how many questions I answered repeatedly, the same questions. And that's why, honestly, it's really important to make a video, to just go, okay, here you go. Here's my story. But I don't want you to ever let go of your light, because your light is bright and it's getting brighter every day. And I'm so excited to see what happens with your experience, as now you are alive.
Yeah. Yeah,
No.
I've only just come to life. I've been dead for so long. I was sifting through my old Instagram yesterday, and even the girl that I thought was happy, because I used to look at myself when I was really, really depressed. I was here and I was depressed. I used to go back to my Instagram and say, look how happy you were. And today, and like yesterday, I was going through, I was like, oh my God, you thought this was happiness? This dark, drug overwhelmed, taking drugs, reckless behavior. You thought this world that you was in, this unrealistic reality that you was living in was happiness? I'm like, no, there's no way but I convinced myself that that was happiness once upon a time, because that was all I knew. I had
Yeah.
the cloud constantly over me. It was always over me, but I thought, okay, at least I have my physical freedom. I was just looking at the things that I should be grateful for whilst going through the motions. And, now that I'm at a point where I can help other people, I want to help other people. I have started the YouTube, I have started the Instagram, because I've seen it happen already. I'm getting lots and lots and lots of questions, and I'm not going to have, at one point when it builds up, I'm not going to have the energy to be able to respond to everyone. So I'm making sure that I start the foundation right, which is something I've never been able to do. I've never been consistent with anything in my life. I've never built a foundation or any kind of stability for myself. I've always started building things on shaky ground. So then when it builds up to a certain point and I crumble, I have to start all over again. Whereas now I have my marriage, I have my child, I have my house, I have my work. I'm a musician, I have my, and now I have this. And I'm staying consistent with it. Whereas before, I would only be able to really do one thing, and then I'll do it for a little bit and then I'd give up. That's another thing about BPD, is not having any identity. I didn't have an identity. I didn't know who I was. So sometimes I'm like, ew, I'm married. I'm a wife. What? I woke up and I'm married. How did that happen? Because even my marriage story happened during a manic phase. And
Yeah.
I'm glad it worked out, because he was my true love. But I got married in Vegas. I went to Vegas and got married after knowing someone for 2 months.
Yeah, I tell my husband all the time, I said, I wouldn't have married you if I wasn't bipolar, but I'm so glad. It was the best decision I ever made to marry my husband. But I can look back at my mental illness and know that I would have never made that decision. I would have never made that decision. But I'm so grateful that I did, that that I was protected. And thank God for the men that can stand by these crazy women.
Wow.
So I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that you broke through to the other side, and that you are not suffering from the mental illness anymore. And I know that the best is yet to come, because Sade, I am not the person that I was 2 years ago. I am not the person that I was 1 year ago.
Mm-hmm.
It continues. It just keeps getting better. There's just more and more moments of healing that happen. I don't know if you know my story, but I had a tragedy happen in my family a year after I had been carnivore. And if that had happened to me before carnivore, it would have leveled me. I really, I don't know if you've ever been suicidal, but I think that if that had happened to me without carnivore, I really don't know if I would have recovered. But I did. And I wasn't just like, I kind of got through it, like I sailed through it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had this peace in the middle of the storm going, oh, I see this happening and this happening and this happening, but I'm okay. Like I was okay, and it resolved and everything's fine. It took like a year and 9 months for it to resolve. So it was torture for a long period of time, but I was okay because I kept eating animal meat and animal fat. And it didn't occur to me once to kill myself. It didn't even register for me to take myself out of be in the misery. So I'm really excited to see how this is going to heal you even more and more and more.
That's the thing about mental illness is, when something happens to you, it's not just like it happening to a normal person. It's not just a normal kind of grief. It's, especially with something like BPD as well. With BPD, you can think about something and go through grief as if someone just died.
Yes.
I used to think about scenarios and I would cry. I would feel like it had already happened because I was living in the experience as I was thinking about it. And now I'm like, well, if I know it's not a good thing to think about, but these are the same thoughts I had when I was dealing with the BPD. But I'm like, okay, so now if this was to happen, I would actually feel, you know, I'd be able to deal with it. It wouldn't feel like I'm mourning a situation. I would know that I could get through it. I know that, you know, I'd be able to deal with it and not have the catastrophic thinking and be up and down and let it ruin my whole life. I now think about the catastrophic thoughts that I had before, and they have no effect on me. So I get what you're saying, because I've thought about that. If a traumatic situation happens, now we have the tools to be able to deal with it. It's like 20 years of therapy in a few months or a few years. It's amazing. So every day I'm more amazed at what this does. I'm hearing it helps to reverse Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, diabetes, arthritis,
multiple sclerosis.
It's like, when does the list stop? Every day I'm discovering, like, fibromyalgia. I just found out 2 days ago there's a whole bunch of people that are healing from, they're helping their symptoms of fibromyalgia. When does it stop? It's a really beautiful thing. And it's a very shocking thing, because meat is the last thing that all of us ever thought was going to be the thing to heal us, because we've always been told to stay away from it. And I've always been a conspiracy theorist. I always knew they were lying to us about some stuff, but I don't think it was everything. I didn't think they were lying about absolutely everything. So now to come to find out meat isn't the cause of heart disease and, you know, gonna make me drop dead. It's shocking, it's beautiful, and I'm happy to be a part of this secret society of carnivores and to get the word out.
Yeah, and fat. I think that fat is the most shocking thing, because I even have people who are carnivore who come to me with mental illness, and they're like, I've been carnivore, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, what do you eat? And they eat lean meat and they don't eat enough fat. And I'm like, increase your fat. They increase their fat, and within a week, they have joy. They have clarity of thought. They have everything. And I'm just like, it was the fat. It was the fat. Mm-hmm. Who would have thought? That's the one thing that they tell us, you know, eat low fat. And, you know, it's such a lie. You're absolutely right. And also I think about the catastrophic thoughts and everything, like a maze, where it's like, you remember like those hedges, that's like a maze, like you walk through a garden and you just have these big tall hedges and you can't see through, but you have to like make it through the maze. That's how my life was. That like, oh my gosh, I came up to a dead end. It's the worst thing in the whole world. Oh my gosh, this is horrible. Or, oh my goodness, I went a wrong turn and this is never going to end. I'm never going to get to the end of it. And now it's just like, oh, I see the maze, and I can see that, okay, this is not a big deal. I just need to turn right. Oh, and then I see up ahead, I'm supposed to turn left. And then it's just like, I see I'm going to navigate my way through this. Like, it's not a big deal.
And it's going to be okay. That's the main thing. And I don't know whether it's the dopamine, the serotonin, whatever it is, everything is going to be okay. I've been listening to Bob Marley's Everything's Going to Be All Right a lot lately.
Yes.
Because I used to always listen to it for comfort. And now I can listen to it and resonate with it. Like, wow, everything is really going to be okay. Even if so-and-so dies, I'm going to be okay.
Yes.
Even if I break a leg, I'm going to be okay. Even if something happens that's really, really terrible, I'm going to be okay. Unless I die, and then I'm still going to be okay. It's like, everything's going to be okay now. And before, everything was just going to be turned to shit. Everything was just going to be, you know, I'm going to ruin my life, and this is going to ruin my life, and this is going to be really, really bad or really, really good. And then, yeah, it's just.
Well, and I remember I had a friend that was BPD, and she said whenever she would meet somebody new and she would have a good connection with them, and she was just like, well, this is good for now, but they're going to stab me in the back. They're going to betray me. They're going to hurt me, because everyone hurts me. Everyone hurts me. And I'm just like, ugh, like but there was no way. And then who really knows if that's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, that the people do stab her in the back and do hurt her because she said that that's what's going to happen.
Because she expects it. Yeah, that's the thing. That's another thing that I had a issue with detachment. I wasn't an attached type of person, because I believed that everybody was going to leave. I had some experiences in childhood where, you know, I was in Nigeria for a little bit, and just some things that happen where I realize, okay, not everyone's going to be there all of the time for me. So I have to kind of be okay with being on my own.
Yeah.
So even with my husband, I haven't been able to attach to him until like the last couple of weeks, because I said he could walk out the door and he could die in a car crash. So I'm not going to get myself attached. So then I have to mourn him when he dies. Very, very narcissistic and selfish kind of thoughts. But it was me deciding not to attach to him because he could die at any minute. Even with my son, I used to have thoughts about, well, if he was to die, then, you know, I'd be sad, but I need to make sure that I don't attach myself to a point that it breaks me when he does die. Because
Yes.
with BPD, it's not just, you know, the feeling of mourning. It's like we mourn every day of our lives. So then, because I'd never actually lost anyone to death in that way, I couldn't imagine, I couldn't fathom what would happen to me if I did lose someone to death, because I'd already mourned. I see people mourning for their loved ones and I'm like, that's how I feel every fucking day.
Yeah.
I'm always mourning something for no reason. So how am I going to feel when that person actually dies on me and I can't get them back? So I always had this issue with attachment, whereas now it's like, okay, you're allowed to attach, Sade, and you are allowed to lose people and you can mourn them and everything is going to be okay. You know, it all turns out okay. So yeah.
I know. And people think we sound like we're crazy. They think we sound like we're absolutely crazy, especially when they're in the middle of that mental illness, or if they've never experienced mental illness, they're just like, how is that any different? You know, but we never knew what good felt like. You know, we never knew what peace was like. Man, it's such a gift, such a gift. Well, I think that you and I could probably talk for hours. And I think that we're probably going to have more conversations. I am so excited to have you in the carnivore community. I am so excited to see all of the, I'm going to say it, millions of people that are going to be healed and helped and given hope because of your story. I think the best is yet to come. And I feel so honored to have met you. And I'm so glad that you're free.
Thank you. I'm glad to have met you too. Thank you for having me on. I'm so grateful for the person that showed you my video. It's just like everything happens for a reason. So thank you. Really looking forward to talking to you again, and continue with the good work, man. You're doing such an amazing thing. You're a therapist that has come out of that career to help people, because you know that it wasn't right, you know. So congratulations on finding your path as well. Congratulations on reversing your mental illness. Congratulations on everything that you have become and are going to become. And just thank you for you, man.
Thank you. So where can people find you? Where can people find you?
I'm on YouTube as Carnivore BPD, so borderline personality disorder, but shortened, Carnivore BPD, and Instagram, same, Carnivore BPD, and TikTok, I haven't figured out how to use yet, but it's Carnivore BPD __. So everything is Carnivore BPD. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm so excited. All right. Well, we will continue this conversation because we're going to have many more.
Okay.